The council chamber floated above a dying star, its walls glowing with shifting colors of light. Around the great table sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Leaders of empires, rulers of systems, guardians of trade and war. They had gathered for one purpose only, to look at a map. The map was no ordinary chart. It was the most complete record of the known galaxy, drawn from millions of ships, probes, and stations. Every star, every world, every route of travel, it was all there, shining in bright detail. But when the map reached the border of human space, it stopped. Beyond the worlds of Earth, Mars, and their colonies, the map was blank. Nothing. No stars. No paths. No records. It was as if the galaxy itself ended at human borders. The silence in the chamber grew heavy. Every alien in the council had seen the same mystery before, but today the map was larger, more complete, more terrifying. Entire regions of stars had been mapped, except one. And that one region was always where humanity lived. The Kalari, a tall insectoid diplomat, broke the silence first. Its mandibles clicked as it spoke. This is not a mistake. Our probes return data from every sector, but never from beyond human space. Our ships vanish, our records fail, and even our long-range scans show nothing. Why is this? No one answered. They had all tried. For centuries, different empires had sent probes and scouts to explore beyond human borders. None returned. Sometimes a black box drifted back across the line, filled with static and silence. Sometimes wreckage was found, twisted as if crushed by impossible force. Sometimes nothing returned at all. Yet the humans continued to grow, slowly but steadily, as if the blank space did not bother them. The Voran delegate, a being of shifting mist, spoke next. Perhaps the humans hide their expansion. Perhaps they block our sensors. Perhaps they erase what they do not want us to see. At once, many voices rose in agreement. Yes, perhaps humanity had found a way to bend the laws of science. Perhaps they had cloaked whole sectors, hidden whole fleets, or erased entire stars from sight. It was a theory some had whispered for generations. But then came another voice, low and calm. It belonged to Counselor the Rose, one of the oldest beings in the chamber. His people, the Seraph, lived longer than almost any other race. He had seen wars rise and fall. He had seen stars burn out. And he shook his head. No, he said. It is not human technology that makes the map go dark. It is something else. Something older. Something the humans will not speak of. His words fell like cold stones. Many in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. Everyone had heard rumors. Rumors that humanity knew more than it admitted. Rumors that they had found something out there, in the black beyond their space. Something that frightened even them. The Telnari queen hissed, her scaled body coiling around her throne. If such a thing exists, why do they not warn us? Why do they not share their knowledge? The Rose gave no answer. Perhaps he had none. Perhaps the truth was too dangerous to speak aloud. The chamber fell into silence again, but the silence was heavier now, pressing against every delegate like invisible weight. On the map, the blank region stretched like a wound across the stars. No light. No routes. No hope. A young commander, barely old enough to hold his seat, rose suddenly. His eyes burned with ambition. We cannot fear shadows. We are the Council. If humans will not tell us what lies beyond, then we must see for ourselves. We must send ships. We must demand answers. Many nodded. Many agreed. Curiosity and pride were strong forces, and fear only sharpened them. Yet the oldest among them remained still. The Rose whispered again, but few listened. Do not ask what lies beyond human space. You will not like the answer. But the chamber was already filled with voices, loud and eager, calling for exploration, for conquest, for knowledge. Plans were drawn. Fleets were promised. Captains volunteered. And as the session ended, the map still glowed in the center of the chamber. Its bright stars shone in every direction. But where humanity's border began, the stars went dark. A perfect, endless blank. That night, as the delegates left the chamber, many could not sleep. They dreamed of the dark space beyond the humans. They dreamed of whispers, of shadows, of great shapes moving in the void. And though they told themselves these were only dreams, they all felt the same truth deep inside. The galaxy was vast, but not endless. Somewhere, beyond human space, the stars themselves refused to shine. And no one dared to ask why. The council chamber opened again the next day, filled with restless voices. The blank map still glowed in the center of the room, and every eye kept turning back to it. No one wanted to admit it, but fear had begun to spread. The galaxy was full of dangers, wars, plagues, ancient weapons, but nothing frightened the council like that empty space beyond human borders. Delegates whispered among themselves. Some whispered that humanity had discovered a hidden weapon in the void. Some whispered that the humans were not alone at all, but were protected by something else, something older and darker. Others whispered that the humans themselves might not even be human anymore, that they had changed into something the galaxy could not understand. The whispers grew louder, echoing around the chamber, until finally the high speaker demanded silence. His voice rang like iron. This council cannot live on fear and rumor. We must decide. Do we watch, or do we act? A heavy stillness followed. The first to break it was the Telnari queen. Her scaled body coiled as she spoke, her voice sharp and full of anger. We cannot allow humans to hide secrets from us. If they have discovered something in the void, it belongs to the galaxy, not to them alone. We must send fleets. We must demand their maps. If they resist, we take what we need. Her words sparked heated agreement from many. The Voran delegate of Mist twisted into new shapes, pulsing with agitation. Yes. For too long humans act like they are above us. Their silence hides danger. If they keep secrets, then perhaps they plan war against us. Others shouted in support. Fear had turned into suspicion, and suspicion into anger. But not all agreed. Counselor the Rose, old and heavy with wisdom, raised his voice again. Do not let pride blind you. You have seen the wrecks. You have seen the black boxes. You know what happens to every ship that goes too far beyond their space. Humans do not stop them. The void itself stops them. This is not human trickery. It is something greater. But the younger voices did not listen. Fear had turned to pride, and pride had become louder than wisdom. A young commander rose from his seat. His name was Darren of the Yulari, and though he was new to the council, his people respected strength above all things. He spoke with fire in his eyes. If the void destroys ships, then we will send stronger ships. If the void swallows fleets, then we will send larger fleets. We are not children, hiding from the dark. We are rulers of the galaxy. No empty map will frighten us. His words spread like flame through dry grass. The chamber erupted with applause and shouts. Delegates stood and declared their support. Already some offered ships and captains for the mission. The high speaker raised his hands to calm them, but the excitement was too strong. The decision was made. A fleet would be sent to cross the border of human space and push into the blank region. They would see for themselves what lay beyond, and they would return with answers. In the quiet corner of the chamber, the Rose lowered his head. His voice was almost lost under the noise, but those nearest to him heard his warning. Curiosity is a sharp blade. Hold it too tightly, and it cuts the hand that holds it. None listened. None cared. The vote was taken, and the decision final. A fleet of 10 ships, drawn from different empires, would gather at the border of human space. They would cross together, so that no single race could be blamed if disaster struck. Their mission was simple: explore, map, and return. But nothing about it was simple. When the chamber finally emptied, the whispers did not stop. They followed the delegates into the halls, into the corridors, into their private ships. Whispers of hidden human power. Whispers of ancient forces. Whispers that maybe, just maybe, the humans themselves had made a pact with something in the void. And while the leaders argued, the ordinary citizens of the galaxy heard the whispers too. Traders avoided human borders. Captains changed routes. Colonies near Earth's sector began to panic. Fear spread faster than truth. At the edge of human space, the fleet prepared. 10 ships, proud and shining, armed with the finest weapons and strongest shields their empires could build. Their crews marched aboard, full of pride, full of fear, full of questions they would never speak aloud. They told themselves they were only explorers. They told themselves they would return with answers. But deep inside, every one of them felt the same cold truth. No ship had ever returned from the blank. And if they did not return, their names would only be another whisper in the council chamber. On the day of departure, the council gathered one final time to watch. The map glowed once more in the chamber, and the fleet's location blinked on the edge of human space. The High Speaker raised his voice. Today, we end the silence. Today, the council reaches beyond human borders. His words were strong, but his eyes betrayed unease. Even he felt the weight of what was about to happen. Then the fleet crossed the line. The map flickered. The signal wavered. For one moment, the ships were there, shining bright on the chart. And then, darkness. The fleet was gone. The council chamber was silent. The fleet had crossed into the blank, and then the signals were gone. At first the council thought it was a delay. Perhaps interference, perhaps a storm of radiation, perhaps simple distance. They waited. Minutes turned into hours, hours into a full cycle. No word came back. 10 ships, 10 crews, 10 commanders, lost in silence. The delegates sat frozen in disbelief. Even those who had demanded the mission now felt a cold weight pressing on them. It was not supposed to happen like this. They had expected reports, data, a message of triumph. Instead, there was nothing. Days passed before the first fragment arrived. A black box drifted back across the human border, scorched and cracked, carried by forces no one could explain. Council engineers rushed to open it. The recording played, and the chamber filled with static. Then came voices, screams, shouts, desperate calls for help. Alarms blared in the background. Metal tore like paper. And then, silence again. The recording cut off. The delegates demanded more. Were there images? Were there coordinates? The engineers hesitated before answering. Yes, there was one image, a single frame recovered from the corrupted file. It showed a shadow. Not a ship, not a planet, not a star. A shadow so vast it blotted out the light behind it. Its shape was unclear, shifting, as though it was not fully real. Some said it looked alive. Some said it looked like a wound in the fabric of space itself. The council chamber shook with fear. Many whispered that it was a trick, a false signal planted by humans. But the black box had come from their own fleet. There was no denying it. The fleet had been destroyed by something. And that something was bigger than anything they had ever faced. The Telnari Queen slammed her claws against the table, furious. We must send more ships. Stronger ships. We cannot turn back because of shadows and fear. But her voice trembled, and her eyes betrayed the truth. She was afraid too. The Vorin delegate shifted form nervously, mist twisting into shapes of claws and teeth. If this is what lies beyond human space, then why do humans survive there? Why are their colonies untouched? Do they control this thing? Do they command it? The chamber erupted with voices. Some cried that humanity was responsible, that they had made a pact with the shadow. Others claimed humanity was a shield, holding the thing back from the rest of the galaxy. And still others whispered the darkest thought of all. Maybe humanity was not separate from the shadow at all. Counselor the Rose rose slowly. His ancient face was heavy with sorrow. You still do not understand. The humans did not make the shadow. They did not control it. They live beside it. And for reasons we cannot know, it allows them to remain. But we are not welcome there. His words chilled the chamber. Delegates demanded proof, demanded answers, demanded anything but silence. But the Rose had no more to give. He only stared at the map, at the empty black stretching beyond human borders, and shook his head. More fragments arrived in the following weeks. Another black box, another corrupted file. This one showed flashes of light, weapons firing into the dark. Beams struck something, but instead of breaking it, the shadow grew larger. A voice screamed in terror, "It's not space. It's alive." Then nothing. Another recording revealed a different horror. One of the commanders shouted orders, demanding retreat, but his words were drowned out by a low sound, like a heartbeat echoing through metal walls. Crew members screamed, covering their ears. Then silence, and the feed cut. The council had enough. The chamber was filled with fear, louder than any war cry. No one spoke of sending more ships. No one spoke of conquest now. Instead, every delegate turned their gaze toward humanity. What did the humans know? Why did they live beside such a nightmare without fear? The High Speaker demanded a human representative to appear. When at last a human ambassador stepped into the chamber, all eyes locked on him. He was calm, too calm for the moment. His suit was plain, his eyes steady. He looked at the map, at the blank void, and then at the terrified faces of the council. When he spoke, his words were simple. "We warned you not to go there." The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted questions, accusations, demands. But the human raised his hand, and the room fell into uneasy silence. "That place is not for you. It never was. The void beyond our borders is not empty. It is older than your empires, older than your stars. You sent your ships into its sleep. And now you know what wakes when disturbed." His words struck like blades. Some delegates raged at him, accusing humanity of lies. Others trembled in silence, unable to look at the map. The human's calm expression never changed. "We live beside it because we learned long ago to respect it. We do not cross deeper than we must. We do not provoke it. And in return, it leaves us be. But you..." He looked around the chamber, his gaze cold and sharp. "You would not listen. And so, your fleet is gone." The chamber shook with fear and anger, but deep inside, every delegate knew the truth. The void had swallowed the fleet. And the humans had known it would happen all along. The council chamber was louder than ever before. The disappearance of the fleet had shaken the galaxy to its core. Empires that once boasted of strength now whispered in fear. The recordings from the black boxes spread like fire through every system, and soon every world knew the same truth. Something vast and terrible lived beyond human space. Delegates screamed for answers. Some demanded war against humanity, convinced that humans had created this terror. Others demanded alliance, begging humanity to reveal the secret. But when the human ambassador stood once more in the chamber, his voice was calm, almost cold. "We told you not to go. We told you the void is not empty. You would not listen." The Telnari queen hissed in anger, her tail lashing the ground. "If you know what this thing is, then you must tell us. We demand the truth." The ambassador shook his head. "The truth is not yours to demand. You wanted to see what lies beyond us. Now you have seen. That is enough." His refusal only fueled their fury. The Vorin delegate of Mist rose up, shifting into a shape of claws and fangs. "Do you think you can keep this power for yourselves? Do you think the galaxy will let humans rule by fear?" But before the argument could continue, the chamber shook. A deep vibration rattled the walls, and the lights flickered. The delegates froze in horror. This was no ordinary quake. Alarms rang out. A wave of gravitational force had swept across an entire sector of space, bending reality itself. Reports flooded in, stars flickering in and out, planets trembling as though touched by unseen hands, fleets forced to retreat from invisible pressure. It was as if the void itself had reached across the galaxy to remind them of its presence. Panic spread. Some delegates shouted to attack, to destroy whatever was causing the disturbance. Others begged the humans to act, to use whatever knowledge they had to stop it. But the ambassador only looked at the reports, then back at the chamber. His voice was quiet, but sharp enough to cut the air. You brought this on yourselves. You stirred what should have been left to sleep. Now you feel its warning. His words silenced the room. Even the proudest voices trembled. What is it? The High Speaker finally asked. His voice was low, almost pleading. What lies in that darkness? What are we facing? The human ambassador's expression hardened. Something that was here long before us. Something that is not bound by your maps or your science. We do not name it. We do not study it. We respect it. That is why we survive. The chamber boiled with disbelief. How could humans claim survival by respect alone? How could they live beside such a nightmare? The Telnari Queen spat in anger. You are liars. You cannot expect us to believe you live beside such a thing with no weapon, no defense. You have a secret weapon, do you not? Show it to us. Share it with us, or the Council will make war upon Earth. At her words, dozens of delegates cheered. The idea of war with humanity spread like fire. But then the ambassador's gaze cut through them, and his words froze their anger. If you make war on us, you will not find us alone. We are not your shield, but nor are we your prey. You think the void is our weapon. You are wrong. We are only allowed to live beside it. Attack us, and you will find out what happens when it is angered. The silence that followed was heavier than any battle. For the first time, the delegates saw not weakness in humanity's words, but a cold confidence. They realized that perhaps humanity had no weapon at all. Perhaps humanity itself was not the danger. Perhaps the true danger was what tolerated them. Reports kept coming. Colonies near human space felt strange pulses, their stars dimming for seconds at a time. Ships in deep space heard sounds in their hulls, low heartbeats that echoed through the void. Fear turned to panic across the galaxy. Trade routes near Earth were abandoned. Civilian ships refused to pass near human borders. And still the Council demanded answers. Humanity gave none. Behind closed doors, the Council argued endlessly. Some cried for war, others begged for alliance. But none could agree, for every delegate carried the same fear. The humans might be telling the truth. They might be the only ones who knew how to live beside the darkness. In private, some leaders began sending secret envoys to Earth, offering gifts, offering treaties, offering desperate promises, anything to learn the truth. But the humans shared nothing. They only repeated the same warning again and again. Do not cross our borders. Do not disturb what sleeps. In the streets of alien worlds, whispers grew louder. Mothers warned children not to speak of humans. Traders told stories of fleets swallowed whole. Soldiers prayed their armies would never march near Earth. And through it all, humanity remained calm, silent, waiting. In the council chamber, the Rose, the ancient Seraph, spoke once more. His voice was slow, heavy with sorrow. The humans are right. The map is blank for a reason. That place is not for us. We should turn back before the void decides we are no longer welcome. Few listened. Pride still clouded too many. But in their hearts, every delegate remembered the shadow on the recording, the heartbeat in the black box, and the human's quiet warning. The galaxy had always thought itself vast and endless. But now they knew the truth. The galaxy had edges. And beyond human space, the stars themselves refused to shine. The council was breaking apart. Every meeting ended in shouting, every empire accused the others of weakness or betrayal, and still the map showed the same terrible truth. The blank beyond human space remained untouched. Fear turned into chaos. Fleets stayed close to home. Colonies far from human borders begged for protection. And through it all, humanity remained silent. They gave no answers, no explanations, only the same warning. Do not cross, do not disturb, do not awaken what sleeps. At last, one delegate grew desperate enough to seek the truth directly. Counselor Lyran of the Kalari, sharp-minded and ambitious, arranged a secret meeting with a human scientist. Not an ambassador, not a soldier, but an old man known only as Dr. Elias Gray. The meeting took place on a small station orbiting a dead moon, far from the eyes of the council. Lyran expected tricks, expected lies, but when he saw the human, he saw only age and weariness. Dr. Gray looked tired, as though carrying a weight too heavy for one man. Still, his eyes were steady, and his voice calm. You want to know why the map ends at our space, he said. You want to know what lies in the blank. Lyran's mandibles clicked nervously. Yes. The council cannot fight shadows. If you know the truth, speak it. The old human sighed. The truth is not a weapon. It is a warning. He leaned closer, his face lit by the dim lights of the station. Long ago, before we left Earth, before we built colonies among the stars, our telescopes saw strange things. Stars vanishing without reason. Signals repeating like voices in the dark. We thought it was only distance, only tricks of the universe. But when we built ships strong enough to cross the void, we found out the truth. Lyran waited, silent and tense. Dr. Gray's voice lowered, almost to a whisper. The void is not empty. It is not space. It is alive. Or perhaps it is a prison, holding things that should never wake. We did not conquer it. We did not fight it. We learned to survive beside it. Lyran's mandibles twitched in disbelief. Alive? What do you mean? A creature. Dr. Gray shook his head. Not a creature. Not something your science can name. Think of the black between stars not as emptiness, but as an ocean. In that ocean, there are currents, there are storms, there are shapes. Some vast as worlds, some small as whispers, but all dangerous. We stumbled into them once. We almost vanished as your fleet did. But we learned. We changed. Lyran's voice cracked. Changed how? The old man looked at him for a long moment before answering. We made a pact. Not of words, not of choice. A pact of survival. We do not cross too far into their domain. We do not map what should not be mapped. We build only where we are allowed. In return, we remain. That is why the map ends at our border. Because beyond it, the galaxy does not belong to us. It does not belong to anyone. The words froze Lyran's blood. He wanted to deny it, to call it madness, but deep inside he knew it explained everything. The vanished ships, the broken recordings, the shadows too vast for science. He finally whispered, "Why do you not tell the council? Why not warn them clearly?" Dr. Gray's eyes hardened. Because pride blinds them. They would not listen. They would see an enemy to fight, a prize to take. And in trying, they would bring ruin to all of us. He paused, his voice quiet but sharp as a blade. The void does not like to be challenged. It sleeps, but it remembers. Every time someone crosses without respect, it stirs. And when it stirs, whole stars tremble. Lyran shivered. For the first time in his long life, he felt smaller than dust. The old human leaned back in his chair, staring at the blank map projected above them. The humans are not masters of the void. We are only tolerated. We live because we learned to fear it. That is our secret. Lyran left the station in silence, his mind heavy with the weight of truth. He wanted to tell the council, to warn them, but he knew most would not believe. Some would mock him, others would rage, and the rest would still demand war or conquest. The truth was too large, too terrifying, and too simple. The galaxy had always thought it was endless. But beyond human space, it had an edge, and that edge was alive. When the council met again, Lyran remained silent. He watched as they shouted and argued, demanding plans, demanding fleets, demanding answers from humanity. He saw the pride in their eyes, the refusal to admit fear, and he remembered Dr. Gray's words. Pride blinds them. They will not listen. And as the chamber filled with anger, Lyran looked once more at the glowing map. The stars shone bright across every sector. But beyond Earth's borders, the black stretched endless, waiting, watching, alive. The whispers had become screams. Across the galaxy, systems near human space began to report strange events. Stars that had shone steady for centuries now flickered like dying candles. Space stations trembled with invisible pressure, their hulls bending as though pressed by unseen hands. Entire fleets sent messages of distress before vanishing into silence. Fear spread faster than light. The council gathered again, but the chamber was no longer filled with pride and confidence. Now it echoed with fear. Delegates argued, shouting over one another, but no one had solutions. Every empire had lost something. Every empire felt the shadow growing closer. The Telnari queen slammed her claws into the table. This is the fault of humanity. They live beside the darkness, they hide its secrets, and now it follows them into our space. They have unleashed it upon us. The chamber roared with agreement. Fingers pointed toward the human ambassador, who stood calm and still in the center. His face showed no fear, only weariness. When the voices finally died down, he spoke. You do not understand. This is not our doing. This is yours. You sent ships into what should have been left alone. You woke it. The Voran delegate twisted in agitation, mist spiraling into jagged forms. Then you must help us stop it. Tell us how to destroy it. The ambassador shook his head slowly. It cannot be destroyed. You do not destroy the ocean, you do not destroy the storm. You endure it. You respect it. That is the only way. The chamber erupted again, but beneath the anger was despair. Fleets had already tried. Every weapon, every shield, every technology had failed. The recordings told the same story. Fire into the dark, and the dark only grows. Still, the council could not accept it. They demanded action. They demanded humanity fight beside them. At last, Counselor the Rose rose, his old voice steady but heavy with sorrow. We have no choice. If the darkness spreads, it will not stop with humans. It will consume us all. We must fight, even if we fail. And so the decision was made. The council would unite its fleets, the greatest armada ever assembled in history. Thousands of ships, drawn from every empire, armed with weapons that could tear planets apart. They would march together into the dark and strike at whatever force haunted the void. They told themselves they had a chance. They told themselves numbers would bring victory. Humanity did not join them. The ambassador gave only one warning before leaving the chamber. If you fight alone. We will not stop you, but remember this. Every strike you make will only wake it further. The council ignored him. Pride still held them, even as fear consumed their hearts. The fleets gathered at the edge of human space, their engines burning like suns, their banners shining with pride. Soldiers sang songs of war to hide their fear. Commanders spoke of victory they did not believe. And then, together, they crossed the border into the blank. The galaxy held its breath. 4 days, there was silence. Then came the first reports. A fleet of 500 ships had vanished in less than a minute. Their signals cut off at once, as though swallowed whole. Another group fired their strongest weapons at a moving shadow, and the shadow grew larger until their lights went out. One ship fled back across the border, its crew mad, their eyes empty, whispering words no translator could understand. Soon, reports stopped entirely. The great armada, the pride of the galaxy, was gone. The council chamber was silent when the truth became clear. No one dared to speak. No one dared to look at the blank part of the map where their fleets had disappeared. And then the real terror began. The void did not stay quiet. It reached outward. Gravitational waves swept across sectors, bending stars, twisting orbits. Civilian colonies cried out as their skies went dark, their suns flickering like candles about to die. Strange shapes moved at the edge of vision, too large to be real, too impossible to name. Entire planets fell silent, their populations gone without a trace. The council broke into chaos. Some called for retreat, others demanded surrender, and still others begged humanity for guidance. Finally, the human ambassador returned. His voice cut through the panic like steel. "We warned you. You woke what should have been left in silence. Now it moves, and nothing will stop it." Delegates shouted at him, their fear turning into anger. "If you knew, why did you not save us? Why do you live beside it unharmed while we are destroyed?" The ambassador's expression was grim. "Because we do not fight it. We do not challenge it. We endure. You refused to listen. You believed yourselves greater than the dark. And now the dark has remembered you." His words left the chamber cold. For the first time in their history, the council realized they were powerless. Their fleets were gone, their weapons useless, their maps empty. And the void was not only awake, it was spreading. Humanity stood apart, silent and watchful, as the rest of the galaxy trembled. The ancient force had returned, and it had no master. The galaxy was breaking. Worlds fell silent one by one, stars flickered like dying candles, and fleets that once ruled the heavens were nothing but whispers on broken signals. The void was awake now, and nothing the council had thrown against it mattered. The armada they had built, the pride of every empire, had vanished like dust in a storm. Panic spread faster than light. Colonies begged for help, civilians fled to core systems, and entire empires turned inward, desperate to protect what little remained. Yet the void did not stop. It pressed forward, slow and steady, unstoppable as a tide. In the council chamber, despair ruled. Some argued for surrender, though no one knew to whom. Others demanded retreat, though no one knew where to hide. Then, for the first time in generations, all eyes turned to humanity. Delegates who once mocked them now begged them for answers, for weapons, for hope. The human ambassador returned to the chamber, his face grim. His voice carried through the silence like a blade. "We warned you. We told you the void cannot be fought. But now it is awake, and it will not return to sleep so easily. If you want to survive, you must fight with us, not against it, but against your own pride." His words stung, but no one argued. They had no fleets left to boast of, no victories to claim. All they had was fear. The humans revealed what they had kept hidden for centuries. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, on the far side of the moon, on stations hidden in empty space, humanity had built weapons no alien had ever seen. These were not fleets of metal and fire, but machines designed to bend space itself, to twist gravity, to create shields not of steel but of collapsing stars. The council gasped in disbelief as the humans unveiled their power. "You think we are strong," the ambassador said. "You are wrong. We are desperate. We built these not to conquer, but to endure. Because we knew one day the void would stir again." With no other choice, the council agreed. For the first time, alien fleets flew under human command. What ships remained were armed with human designs, their weapons enhanced with strange technology no other race understood. Together they gathered near the border of human space, the last line before the void consumed them all. And then the battle began. Shadows stretched across the stars, vast shapes moving like living storms. They swallowed fleets whole, tore planets apart as if they were made of paper, bent light itself into silence. The council forces fought bravely, but once again their weapons meant nothing. Beams of energy, missiles, plasma cannons, all dissolved into the dark. Ships screamed and died. Panic spread through the lines. And then the humans struck. Earth's hidden weapons roared to life, bending space around the shadows, collapsing whole sectors of stars into traps that ripped pieces of the void apart. For the first time in history, the darkness recoiled. The galaxy trembled as the humans unleashed their fury. They bent reality itself, tearing holes in space, creating storms that swallowed the shadows instead of the fleets. The council watched in awe and terror. They had never imagined such power. They whispered to each other in disbelief. Were humans always capable of this, or had the void itself taught them? But even as the humans fought, the truth was clear. They were not destroying the void. They were only holding it back. Each strike bought moments, not victory. Each weapon slowed the tide, but the tide still moved forward. The human commanders knew it. The ambassadors knew it. And slowly, the council began to understand as well. This was not a final battle. This was a wall of sacrifice, a desperate stand to give the galaxy time. Still, the fight raged on. Ships twisted and burned. Shadows screamed across the stars in voices no mind could bear. Delegates in the chamber watched live feeds with pale faces, hearing the last words of their soldiers. And through it all, humanity fought without fear. They did not fight to win. They fought because it was the only way to survive. Hours turned into days. The void pressed harder, stretching across space like a growing wound. The humans pushed back, bending physics until it screamed. At last, when it seemed the line would break, the ambassador spoke one final truth to the council. You still do not see. We are not alone in this fight. And then the shadows shifted. From the black beyond human space came new shapes, vast and ancient, larger than fleets, larger than worlds. They did not strike at humanity. They struck at the void itself. The chamber fell silent as the council realized the truth. Humanity was not standing alone. Humanity had never been alone. The galaxy trembled as the new shapes emerged from the dark. They were not like ships, nor like the shadows that devoured fleets. They were older, greater, and their presence pressed against the minds of every living being watching. Delegates in the council chamber fell silent, some clutching their heads as visions filled them. Worlds across the stars felt it too, civilians falling to their knees as the ancient beings passed through the void. They were not enemies, nor were they saviors. They were guardians, older than the council, older than any empire, perhaps older than the stars themselves. The human ambassador's voice was steady as the chamber filled with terror. You wanted to know why the map ends at human space. You wanted to know why we never go beyond. Now you see the truth. The void is not empty. It is not a mystery. It is a prison. His words fell like thunder. Delegates gasped, some shouting in denial, others staring at the dark shapes in horror. The ambassador continued. Long before your empires were born, long before your species learned to speak, there was a war. Something vast, something endless, something hungry beyond words tried to consume the stars. It was stopped, not destroyed, but locked away. That prison is the blank space you feared to map. That prison is what you woke. The chamber froze in silence as the realization settled over them. Humanity had always known. Humanity had built their civilization beside the prison walls, not because they were blind or weak, but because they were chosen. The Guardians had not abandoned the galaxy, they had left humanity to watch. The delegate from the Talnari whispered in shock. You were jailers? The ambassador's eyes darkened. Not jailers. Servants. Watchers. We kept the secret, because if we spoke of it, curiosity would awaken it. If we revealed it, pride would break it. And now you see why. The council erupted into panic. Voices clashed, fear turned to rage. Some accused humanity of betrayal. Others begged them to lead. A few simply sat in silence, knowing the truth could not be denied. Meanwhile, the battle raged outside. The void pressed against the Guardians, their enormous shapes clashing in silence across the stars. Space itself bent and tore as they fought, waves of energy rippling through galaxies. Human fleets joined the Guardians, using weapons not to kill but to seal, to push the darkness back into the prison it had broken from. For every shadow destroyed, a dozen more emerged, yet the Guardians did not falter. They had fought this war before, and they would fight it again until the stars themselves burned out. The council watched in awe as humanity guided them, ordering what few ships remained into formation, not to strike, but to reinforce the prison walls with technology none of them had ever seen. Whole sectors of space were folded shut, locked behind barriers of warped gravity and collapsed time. It was a desperate act, one that would cut off colonies forever, but it was the only way. Days passed like years. Fleets burned, guardians bled light across the void, and humans held the line. At last, slowly, painfully, the shadows began to retreat. The void screamed as its prison closed again. Systems cracked, stars shattered, but the seal held. When it was over, silence returned. The map once again showed a blank beyond human space, not because it was unknown, but because it was forbidden. In the chamber, no one spoke. No one dared. Humanity had stood where no one else could, beside gods and monsters, holding back the end of all things. Finally, Counselor Theros, his old voice trembling, asked the question all feared. Will it return? The ambassador did not answer at once. He looked around the chamber, at the frightened faces of those who had once mocked humanity, those who had begged for help, those who had lost everything. His reply was soft but carried the weight of stars. Yes. One day. The void never dies. It only sleeps. That is why the map ends at our border. That is why we endure. We are not your shield. We are not your saviors. We are the warning. The chamber went still. No one dared to argue. No one dared to deny. They understood at last why no one had ever dared to ask why the map ended at human space. And now, they wished they never had. For the truth was not just terrifying, it was eternal. Humanity was not powerful because of their weapons, nor their fleets, nor their defiance. Humanity was powerful because they had learned to live beside the dark without breaking. And as the stars slowly steadied and the void fell silent again, the galaxy knew one thing with certainty. The Council might rule in law, but humanity ruled in fear. The Guardians returned to the dark, their vast shapes fading into silence, leaving behind only echoes in the minds of those who had seen them. The Council disbanded in silence, their pride shattered, their maps redrawn. And Earth stood quiet, carrying its secret as it always had, watching the border where the galaxy dared not look. The story would spread across every world, whispered in fear, told as warning. Beyond human space, the map is blank. And now everyone knew why.